People say you'll just know when you meet the right one. Some say love is the sign God sent her, but the Bible tells a completely different story. Because the Bible doesn't say to trust your feelings, it says to watch her fruit, it says to look at her life. And it names plainly the kinds of women a man is warned to stay away from before he makes a covenant he can't undo. Feeling drawn to her isn't the test. Who she is the test. Here's why this matters. Proverbs 18, verse 22 says, "He that findeth a wife findeth a good thing, and obtaineth favor of the Lord." Finding a wife is supposed to be one of the best things that ever happens to you. God designed it that way. But the same book of Proverbs adds the warning in chapter 12, verse 4. "A virtuous woman is a crown to her husband, but she that maketh ashamed is as rottenness in his bones." The wrong wife doesn't just make life harder, she works against you from the inside. Not like a storm you weather, like a slow decay you don't notice until something important is already gone. So the question isn't whether you'll find her. The question is whether you'll know what you're actually looking at when you do. Here are 6 women the Bible warns you about. Number 1, the woman who says she believes but lives like she doesn't. She has a Bible on her shelf. She'll pray with you when things get hard. She goes to church at Christmas and maybe Easter. She'll tell you she loves God. And she might mean it in some surface level way, but her daily life, her decisions, her money, her relationships, her mouth has nothing to do with God. 2 Corinthians 6, verse 14 says, "Be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers." In other words, don't build your life with someone who isn't walking the same direction. The yoke is a farming image, 2 animals bound together, pulling the same load. If one pulls against the other, neither moves forward. Both get hurt. She doesn't have to be an atheist to be unequally yoked. She just has to be living like God isn't real. That gap between what she claims and how she lives, it looks small now. After the wedding, it becomes everything. Number 2, the woman who fights everything. You know the pattern. Every conversation becomes a negotiation. Every decision becomes a battle. Every quiet moment is borrowed time before the next argument. There's no peace in the house because she doesn't bring peace into rooms. Proverbs 21, verse 9 says, "It is better to dwell in a corner of the housetop than with a brawling woman in a wide house." Solomon, the wisest man who ever lived, says he'd rather sleep on a rooftop corner than share a palace with a woman who brings constant strife. That's not a small statement. That's the man who had everything saying some things aren't worth the cost. And notice what scripture doesn't say here. It doesn't say to lead her better. It doesn't say to outserve her out of it. It doesn't say to love her into peace. It says to get away from her. This isn't a personality quirk you can manage. It's a warning scripture takes seriously. You should too. Number 3, the woman who uses her body and her words to pull him in. She knows exactly what she's doing. Her words are calculated. Her appearance is a tool. She's warm when she wants something and cold when she has it. And the man following her doesn't realize where he's going until it's too late. Proverbs 7, verses 21 through 23 says, "With her much fair speech she caused him to follow her. He goeth after her straightway, as an ox goeth to the slaughter." In other words, the pull feels real. It feels like connection. But Proverbs is describing a man who is walking to his own destruction without knowing it, led there by someone who knew exactly where she was taking him. Here's what Proverbs does not say in response to this woman. It doesn't say to pray for her. It doesn't say to be her witness. It doesn't say to stay close and be the stable presence in her life. It says leave. Don't even walk near her door. That's the instruction, not engagement, not redemption. Exit. None of this is easy to hear. And if you've been with someone who fits one of these profiles, there's no condemnation here. A lot of men have been. The warning isn't there to make you feel foolish. It's there because Scripture thought you were worth warning. Number 4, the woman who won't take correction from anyone. And look, watch her. Not how she treats you, how she treats authority she didn't choose. Watch how she responds when her father says something she doesn't want to hear. Does she receive it? Does she get quiet and think about it? Or does she dismiss it, justify herself, and later mock him for saying it? Watch how she talks about her pastor after a sermon that stepped on something in her life. Does she wrestle with it, or does she pick it apart until she's convinced herself he was wrong? Proverbs 12, verse 15 says, "The way of a fool is right in his own eyes, but he that hearkeneth unto counsel is wise." Refusing correction isn't a personality type. Scripture calls it foolishness, the mark of someone who cannot hear anything outside their own judgment. She didn't choose her father, she didn't choose her pastor, but she'll choose you. And if she can dismiss authority she didn't pick, she'll dismiss yours the moment it costs her something. A woman who rejects every voice over her life will not honor a husband's. That's not a prediction, it's a pattern. Number 5, the woman pulling him away from God. 1 Kings 11, verse 4 says, "For it came to pass, when Solomon was old, that his wives turned away his heart after other gods." Read that slowly. Solomon, the man who built the temple, the man God appeared to twice, the wisest human being who ever walked the earth, his wives turned his heart away from God. He didn't see it coming, he didn't plan for it, he was the strongest, most gifted man in Israel, and it happened anyway. You are not stronger than Solomon was. And if the most gifted man in Scripture couldn't hold his walk with God against the wrong women, you need to stop trusting your strength and start watching the fruit. Is she pulling you toward God or away from Him? Do you pray more since she came in or less? Are you more like Christ or less? If you can't answer that fast, the answer is less. Number 6, the woman who's never satisfied. You can build a better house. You can earn more. You can become a better man, more patient, more present, more faithful, and none of it will be enough. Proverbs 30, verses 15 through 16 says, "The horseleech hath 2 daughters, crying, Give, give. There are 3 things that are never satisfied, yea, 4 things say not, it is enough." Proverbs lists things that are never full, never satisfied, always demanding more, a drought that won't break, a fire that won't go out. And in the same company, the pattern of a woman whose appetite has no bottom. You cannot pour enough into something that has no bottom, not because you failed, not because you weren't enough, but because satisfaction was never in her. And a man who spends his life trying to fill that will spend himself to nothing and still hear that it wasn't enough. That's not love, that's slow ruin. Here's the bottom line. Who you marry decides who you become. The Bible doesn't treat a wife as decoration on a man's life. She shapes his walk with God for better or worse. That's not a cultural observation. That's the testimony of the wisest, strongest men in Scripture. The wrong woman didn't just affect their marriages, she affected their relationship with God. But here's the truth most men never hear. God didn't leave you to guess. He left you a profile. He named what to look for. He named what to walk away from. And the man who reads it carefully doesn't walk into a marriage blind, he walks in clear. You are not looking for perfection, you are looking for direction. Is she walking with God on her own, not because you're watching, not because she wants to impress you, but because she actually knows Him? That's the question. And she'll show you the answer before you ever have to ask it. Here's what to do before you commit. Watch how she treats her father and her pastor before you watch how she treats you. How she handles authority she didn't choose tells you how she'll handle yours. You don't have to test her. You just have to pay attention. Stop trying to disciple a girlfriend into a wife. If she isn't walking with God on her own now, marrying her won't fix it. You are not her pastor. You are her potential husband. Those are different callings. And ask yourself honestly, am I more like Christ since she came into my life or less? If you can't answer that fast, the answer is less. The woman God has for you is not a trap. She's not a project. She's not someone you drag to the altar hoping she catches up. She's a woman already walking, already rooted, already in a real relationship with God, not a performance of one, the real thing. You'll know her when you see her, but first, you have to know what to look for. If this video opened your eyes to something you needed before you made this decision, share it with a man who needs to hear this before he commits. And if you want more scripture-based truth that cuts through religious noise and gets back to what the Bible actually says, click the like button and subscribe to Bible Unshaken. The word doesn't leave you guessing, neither will we.